everybody, another drawing tutorial. This time I'm working on the eye of Robert Downey Jr. And this one here is going to be a little mix of time-lapse and real-time. And what I'm going to do is I'll add some real-time footage at the very end of the video for those who want to sludge through watching that slow, monotonous. So, a little bit of everything for everybody. Can't get any fairer than that. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's take a moment here and look at what goes on in drawing lashes. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of do a simplified eye here, just so that you get the idea of what's going on, okay? But let's just say, you know, we have something like this, okay? All right, I'm just not looking for perfection here. I just want to, and I'm not even going to draw in the iris and pupil here very dark, because I just want to give you an idea what's going on. Okay, when you're drawing eyelashes, usually from the middle over, you're going to end up with a lash that kind of comes down and then hooks up. Down and hooks up. Okay, and you're just going to be doing that, and you want to try to look at your reference, and as you get over to the left, you're going to see it kind of be much more coming off, and I'm just doing this really rough here, but you're going to see it all going over to the side like that. Okay, so everything's kind of cooking down and moving off. And that's all you're doing, okay? Just like that. On the right-hand side, if we're going towards the tear duct, it's the opposite, but it's also less of a size. So on this side here, as you move to the side of the face, the eyelashes tend to be a lot longer, but as you get closer to the nose or towards the nose, it's the same thing. It hooks over, but then it usually ends up being much shorter hairs, usually most of the time, and then down here just gets really, really small. Now, when you start if this was looking straight at you, for example, it's difficult often to bring the lashes down and then straight up, which is what's happening, is that the lash is usually going straight up. And when it's facing you, and depending on whether the eye was wide open, because if the eye's wide open, you'll likely see more of that eyelash on the top. But if the eye is slightly closed, which you'll see a lot of times, the hairs won't even go, or the lash, I'd say, is there an eraser on this? Yeah. Won't even go up that high. It'll just be this little bit like this. And so what I will normally do is I will just simply draw a straight line like this. I'll just go straight. I'm just drawing straight lines, and these are the ones that are right in front, not the ones on the side. And the ones on the side, I might go a little bit slanted. But these lashes, I will just draw a straight vertical line. Now, I'm not going to end there because I have the ends of these little lashes just hanging here in midair, and I don't want that. So what I'll do then is I will put a straight little vertical line up, and usually give it the slight appearance of having started from the back and moved up and out. Moved up and out. So you can see what happened here. Okay. And this is very crude drawing here, but I'm trying to get a point across. Let me do it again right here. Let me just draw just the top part here. First, below the, let's just say that this is the upper lid of the eye again, okay? Upper lid. Just below it, like how far down does the lash move down before it curves up, is how low the bottom of my lash will be, and I will just make a vertical line up like that. But since it has to come from the eyelid, I will just give it a hint that it came from the upper eyelid. Okay, and if it's straight, a straight lash, so I'm going to do some straight lashes here. Okay, and these are real magnified views here. I'm just going to come in there and just hint. Just hint. See a little hint right there and that little hint right there? Just hint that it actually came from the eyelid itself before it went down and then hooked back up again. So instead of going, you know, like this, like this, like this, I just look at the reference, look at where those hairs, how high up they're going, and then I go ahead and I make the little connections in the back for the very front. And that's how I do that. And then the rest of it is easy because those I'm going to go and I'm going to hook. You know, that type of thing. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hook and try not to make them all regular because that's the worst thing you can do, and so forth and so on. Okay? And just remember, as you get closer to the nose, they're going to be smaller. But as you get away from the nose, they tend to be, especially for women, they tend to be way more, and it goes horizontal over here. And of course, these down here is easy. None of these here you have to worry about these hooks. You're just basically doing this little thing here, and it's not a big deal. Even in the very front, you're just going to go straight down. So it's not a big deal. But up here in the top, you do want to give it the impression that it is hooking. So I hope that kind of helps. I did it awfully quick with this pencil here. Normally when I do them, I'm a little more meticulous about it, but I think you got the point. Anyway, let's continue on with the tutorial. Okay, so as you can see, I'm adjusting with my kneaded eraser here. The process of drawing photorealistically is you're going to be putting on graphite or charcoal or both. And then as more and more areas are filled in, you're going to start to realize that some areas need to be a little darker, some areas need to be a little lighter. When you're initially putting down pencil, it's very hard to determine how dark you can go. Now, when I first started drawing this eye, of course, I start with the darkest darks, and that is the pupil, and then I went with the eyelashes, and of course, there was the eyebrows. Those are the darkest areas on the face in this particular photo. Then everything then comes off of that, which means everything's going to be lighter than those darks. But as I go in there and I draw in the white of the eye, which is just to let you know is not done yet, and I may not even get that finished in this particular video. But as time goes on, I'll be making adjustments, and I'll go back and I'll look at things. I'll pull graphite out with my kneaded eraser, as you see here. In this case here, I'm lightening the skin texture, and I'm also shaping the dark area that surrounded that lower eyelid there. And here I'm just going through and making minor adjustments. You know, I see a little line that needs to go away, and then you see an area that needs to be shaded in. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, if you go back to the very beginning of this video tutorial, and then you compare it to now, you'll see that the eye has come a long ways. There's still a lot more to go here to get it more photorealistic, but I'll just continue to add layers, take it off, and blend. In this area right here, I was struggling a little bit, and I've done this so many times, and yet I'll still end up with certain areas just having to fight through. And with the reference photo, it was just I was having a difficult time even squinting to differentiate the shades of the crease and everything, and I had to keep going back. But what I normally do is you don't want just a line, okay? It needs to look like a crease, and it's starting to look like one, which is nice. But as you come out of the crease, it's going to be lighter than the crease itself, but it's going to be darker than when you move a little further out from the crease, because it kind of moves towards you, which in this case would be towards the light. So as I'm blending up with the pencil here from the crease, I'm going to come back later and I'm going to lighten the very top of that eye area there, because that is going to be an area that is closer to the light. But right now I haven't done that yet, because I'm just now working the area right when you come out of the crease. It's just going to be mildly lighter than the crease itself, but immediately gets a lot lighter, and I have to account for those differences if I'm going to give the impression that there is a rounding rather than a flat, just having a flat face. There's actually uh, roundedness. Now, the upper eyelid itself, between the eyelashes and the crease, you'll see there's a highlighted area right there on the top of there that I had already added in, and that gives the impression that it is kind of a bubble out, and that's what I want. Now, I'm working over here on some small minor details. I'm using uh, I think I'm using a 4H here, but I'm using the point of it, which makes it look a little darker, but I'm not pressing into the paper. Even though I'm holding the pencil at the tip here, I am definitely not putting pressure on there. But what it does is it does lay down a slightly darker graphite path there, and I'm only doing this so that I have some kind of a reference as to where that dark area belongs, because as I go in there to shade around that, that area will just disappear, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to have to come back again with even a darker pencil and even a darker pencil after that, and go from there.
You know, it's very important to look at your reference photo as often as possible. Matter of fact, every few seconds to be exact, and look for the details and just really pay close attention to changes in shade from one location to another, small lines, creases, and so forth. Now, like right here, I believe that I'm using a I'm not quite sure. I may be using a 4H or an HB. I think this one might be the HB, and then here I'm doing the 4H. And because I notice there's a difference in shade. Now I flashed the pencil here a few times while I was doing the video to show what pencil I was using, but since we're kind of in a time lapse, it's a little difficult. Now I know this is the 4H pencil. I can recognize that. And this is a lighter area here. But what I'll also do is I'm going to go over the dark area with the 4H just to fill in the paper fibers there to give it a little more smoothness, even though I'm going to go and blend all this anyway. But notice the transition from dark to light right here in this area that I'm drawing in. And these are the things that you want to keep your eyes on in the reference photo, is for those subtle changes from light to dark. Now here I'm using I think that's probably an HB I use there to put those lines in, and those will get faded out as I go in there with the 4H later, as well as the blending will fade those out, and then I may have to come in again to darken them back up. But I'm holding two pencils in my hand at the same time here. One is the 4H, and the other one is most likely like the HB. And I'm switching back and forth. Where if I'm doing the dark area around the outside there, I'm going with the HB, and then here I'm going with the 4H, which is the lighter pencil, and I will then blend that all out because you can see how rough that looks. I want to be able to draw in my details rather than having the paper uh, texture dictate the details of the face. So blending will fill in those paper fibers, and then I can go in there and make any kind of changes or details that I need to do. Okay, we're coming to the end of the video, so I've got this now in real time, as I said I would. Just a little bit of real time on the end here. But, you know, a lot of it is just, you know, monotonous watching. So we really had to speed it up. Uh, this is coming along really well. I still have a lot more to do to make this resemble the photograph itself. As just a plain drawing, it's fine, though I do want to get that to be even more like the photograph itself. So it's coming along really good here. I'm happy with that so far. And so that's it. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.